Welcome to the Story of Money by Ash Stewart. Episode 010, The Core Foundations of Trade, a wrap-up with a recap of the series so far.
This series is already 10 articles old. I've covered some of the most fundamental concepts so far, some that might have seemed too basic to bother, but hopefully I've shed some new light. Let's take stock and consolidate.
A decimilestone.
We started with the very question of money itself, because the popular perception of it in some quarters can be somewhat blurred. We saw that it can be similar with the market, price, but especially profit and capital. Its general use has diverged from the conceptual reality to the point of making for confusion or even conflict. We then considered aspects such as risk, the time value of money, interest, debt, and opportunity cost. Many of these may seem outside the scope of a series on money, but fundamentally speaking, they are not. Taken together, this set is intended to serve as the first layer of an introduction to economics and finance. Hence, as you may have guessed, the series ref EcFin. Let's now briefly look at one last concept that ties this all together.
Taking stock in trade.
Yes, trade. Again, like some of the other topics, one could say, "What? I know what trade is." But again, let's peel the surface. Of course, in its simplest definition, trade is the exchange of goods, a practice that started off with the simplest barter between two individuals in the earliest of times. Here's the thing. Trade is almost entirely a human activity. None of our relatives in the animal kingdom really carry out anything that can be seen as trade in any sustained and deliberate way. All animals still do manage resources, seek profits, see episode 004, hoard capital, in different ways as different from the squirrel stashing away nuts to the camel doing it in-house. Some of our primate cousins have developed systems of reciprocity and political factionalism, which means they deal with risk and especially debt. You scratch my back today, I'll scratch yours tomorrow. But not trade as we do it. Alongside a handful of other attributes such as the opposable thumb, highly developed vocal cords, which allows for language, trade is the other primary human trait. Note that this list starts with the more physical ones. The opposable thumb turned out to be rather handy. Our hominid ancestors could grip a club and thwart a predator. But increasingly, it's the more advanced intellectual systems that come to define us, or at least distinguish us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Of these, I've time and again spoken about language, Texi 15, where I first discussed the Proto-Indo-Europeans and the origins of most of the main languages of Eurasia. Texi 28, where I got into the roots of our number terms again, going back to the PIE folk, but also others. So let's pause to appreciate the other one.
A fine and worthy trade-on.
To be able to trade requires developing mindsets and institutions. First and foremost, trust, as we all know only too well, whether in the positive or in the negative. We need disciplines such as the delayed gratification. On top of the bottom-up emergence of trade, as we saw in the market episode, we also need other institutions around it to ensure fair play. Whatever our notions of that may be. In sum, and combining the two human traits I've just mentioned, economics is simply an extension or formalization of our language, our ideas, our practices. And of course, as this field has developed over the thousands of years it has, this technical language has become rather jargon-heavy to the casual outsider and contributes to the dismal image of economics as a social science. However, economics touches a great many aspects of our daily lives, as we've seen in this series so far, where we have decisions to make, risks to take, limited resources to manage. Economics as a discipline is more ubiquitous than generally appreciated. So it helps to be able to demystify the fundamental and even advanced concepts in the field by piercing through the thicket of jargon. And in accomplishing this, I reiterate my commitment to you. Thank you for your interest and support. What we've seen so far is but just a teaser. There's a lot more to the story of money.